we're all ready. Thank you for coming out on this very blustery night. It's more like April or November. This is the last program of the year. We did have one scheduled for next month, but they canceled, so this is the last program. So we saved the best to last. Ta-da. And to coordinate, October is Fire Prevention Month. Started out as Fire Prevention Week. And so that's why we coordinated with this program. But most people don't know why it is. Why is October Fire Prevention Month? Started as Fire Prevention Week in 1925 when President Calvin Coolidge signed the Presidential Proclamation, making it a national observance. As a nation, we acknowledge Fire Prevention Week every year from October 9th to October 15th, or the whole month, whatever. And we observe it on this particular week to commemorate the Great Chicago Fire that happened in October of 1871. According to the Chicago Architecture Center, the fire killed approximately 300 people, destroyed roughly 3.3 square miles of the city, and including over 17,000 structures, and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. So the theory that, if any of you have ever heard of Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicking over the lantern, that may not be true, but it was the Chicago Fire of 1871. So that's why we coordinated with Chief Small. And it is with great pride and pleasure that I introduce Chief Daniel Small.
Thank you, Mrs. Small. So I'll do a follow-up to all of that, just a little bit about me, then I'll stop boring you about me. But Danny Small grew up about 500 feet down the street, and I've lived in this area my whole life. And I'm going to get into a next slide and ask how long some of you have lived in town, and I got an estimation of who might be here the longest, but I'm not sure. My wife's name is Tricia. She grew up on Main Street, Rick and Gloria Pettingill, Main Street right next to Cottage Farm. Started dating her my junior year in high school. I have a son and a daughter. Jack was just in the room, and Emily is a school teacher in the Greeley system now as she's a substitute. I don't know what the exact term is. She's a long-term sub, absolutely. In high school, we didn't have an Explorer post. We were called the auxiliary, and we could start at 16 years old. So when I was 16 years old, I started. Again, this is my son, Jack, I claim most of the time. So starting in 1986 in the fire EMS service, and I've stayed with it all my life. Out of college, I was hired by the State of Maine Fire Marshal's Office as a fire investigator. I did criminal investigations on arson-related fires, large fatality or injury incidents. Maybe people can remember the fireworks explosion that happened off the Eastern Prom back in the day. Captain Dunn might have even been there that night, I'm not sure. But I investigated things like that. Had a canine named Jasmine, so I was traveling the state with a canine, which was a great thing to do. The problem is I was traveling all over at all times of the days, nights, weekends, and it was not going to be a good job, in my opinion, to raise a family. So in '97, I went to work. Very lucky, I was hired by the Portland Fire Department. Retired just 3 years ago this Halloween. I don't know why I picked Halloween to be my retirement date. So it was a great 25 years, learned a lot in the city, saw some pretty tough things, but I think I was very fortunate to learn a lot along the way. I've got the arrow between Portland and Cumberland Fire Chief because I started being the part-time fire chief here in town in 1999, which seems like yesterday, but it kind of wasn't. So to be chief for 26 years, doing those both at the same time, the reason I got done a few years ago in Portland, I missed that job tremendously. It's just, you can only be in, you can't be doing too much and be healthy, so I like this job so much that I stayed here. We're always in the Cumberland Fire Department, and wherever we extend out to, there's got to be a family spirit to that, because it's that brother and sisterhood that we have. So when I have we serve our family first, the immediate, but we're also a family out to our communities, and I've got a slide to talk about that. But the town of Cumberland is very fortunate that we've got a family-oriented department, and there are people in this room that are retired or present personnel with the fire department. And the little guy at the bottom who wouldn't get out of the picture, his name is Jake. So, because I know everybody's young here, for my sake, I wanted to kind of get a capture of time of where we're at for the most part. So, if I could have everybody raise your hands right now. So, everybody raise your hand, please. Okay, if you weren't, I know where you were. If you were here before 2020, keep your hands up. If you were there, let me put it this way. If you were there after 2020, put your hand down. All right? If you were here after 2010, let's go with 2000, 1990, 1980, 1970. I'm right on the cusp. I was born in 1970. All right? 1960. Still got a few. You actually live in? And 1950. Yeah, you have to put it down. You personally. You personally. So, and I knew what year? You're what, 45, 50 years old? Yeah.
I actually don't know when I actually joined it. I moved here in 1953.
Okay.
And being same as always, they're always looking for daytime firemen. So I'm sure that I probably joined it in 54. I did see an article where he was in it in 54.
Yeah. We'll trust you. We'll trust you. So I've got some slides that kind of talk about back then, as well as where we're at today. I'm sorry.
I was born in 52, April, so I'm 73.
Okay. That's awfully young. So we'll go along some of the slides. We'll kind of stop and have some discussion. Others we'll kind of clip through, so we are not here till midnight. I was very strictly told that I'm not going to go more than 45 minutes. So she gave me the look a couple times. I'm like, I promise. I promise. So we'll do some history from the way it used to be to the way it is now. I have Chebeague Island on here because up until 2007, we know that Chebeague was part of us. There's a picture on the upper left of their older station, and then it was actually my father, George, and his crew who built the station that they still are in today in 1983. And they're just the barge talks about the the complexity of trying to get equipment to and from. Right now, if Chebeke's at its own fire department, obviously, if they get a fire call, they're limited with call company. They don't have any full-time people. The summers they put an extra person out there just to help with the EMS predominantly. But they call for mutual aid. Our mutual aid is North Yarmouth and Falmouth and Yarmouth, and theirs is Falmouth and Yarmouth and Cumberland and Portland, and it's just add 45 minutes onto what we get to experience. So I've never lived on an island, never will live on an island. I think if you did grow up on an island, you know what that is like. I will never do it. But they have now, I bought, before they seceded, a brand new engine, because a lot of the times they were getting the hand-me-down stuff from the mainland. But they've got a pretty good fleet of equipment out there. Ralph Monroe is the chief. He's also a full-time firefighter in Portland, and he's done a tremendous job with not a lot of assistance, especially as the population drops in the winter. So I may go to the expert here a few times, but the upper left, that had to have been the station when you first joined the department. Do you know when that was built? Because I can't find a date.
I'm gonna say late 40s.
Okay, so 1943. Okay, 33. Okay. Okay, so she's just making that information up, but it sounds good, so that's what we're going to go with. But that was a one base station. The building is actually still there. It's on the S-turns on Blackstrap Road before you get to the Falmouth line, beyond Cumberland Auto Salvage in that area. The bottom two pictures are of the same building they added on. It was a really close vote in the mid-60s to pass the station. It passed by one vote, I believe, to say, yes, the town's going to build that station for them. Go.
One vote, and they had to do it twice. They weren't satisfied the first time. And we did a lot of sweating before they took the second vote, and it came out the same.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Brad didn't think that it was physically, because you couldn't really fit in that door. So it'd be like, I think he said it would be like, running like a, put a shoe, like if you had a.
Shoehorn to get the thing in, probably. Right. So, and I don't know, I know a few of the, that's Dennis Allen. In the book, I took some of these pictures out of the Cumberland Fire Department history, as well as the Town of Cumberland book, and it's got the names. Some of them are a little iffy. They got a question mark next to them, but we know most of the people, and they're all characters. I can say that. This picture I added because we added a third truck as a tank truck, because up in West Cumberland there was no hydrant system. So this tank truck that you see here was actually taken off another fire truck and built onto that, and that was the tank truck, the first one that we had up to the station. The station that is there today was built in 1988, and this part right over here is this part right over here, right? Those bays became the meeting room space. We have 3 college students that are in either the fire science through Southern Maine Community College or the paramedicine program. We have 3 at Central Station and 3 up to the west. So a little bit different use than it once had, but it's giving us some good protection up in that area. The station has a reserve ambulance and 2 active fire engines. One of the fire engines has 2,000 gallons of water, so it's an engine and a tank truck. Going the wrong way. Central Station. And I'm going to come back to these pictures for a dispatching purpose here in a minute, but obviously this one goes way back to the beginning, before the 30s, and at different times, it wasn't just the fire station. There was a school bus that was parked there. There was a plow truck that was parked there. I was never in this place, so if I get something wrong, don't hold it against me. Blame my mother. So the furnace, everything inside, it was all in that location. When the 1965 station was built, there are pictures still where 2 of the bays were moved down to Drown Road. It is no longer there, but it was used as part of the Public Works Department. Very smart on the town's part to say, let's not throw this stuff completely away, and they repurposed that for several years. The 1965 building, certainly with the equipment outgrowing, that shoehorn analogy, letting us get the equipment that we needed. Initially, it had an ambulance and 3 fire engines. Engine 1, Engine 3, and Engine 7. In 2018, the place got a little bit bigger. But we had a few different, I was on the building committee, obviously, at that point, and we put a lot of different things back and forth. And these costs today would be 3 times this anyway, but built a station for $4.4 million. But we tried to be as judicious with the spending as possible. So one of the plans was to completely tear the place down and start over. But what the decision was, just like we did up to the west end, these 4 bays are those 4 bays. We had to add a couple others for the ambulance and the ladder truck. There's an EMS room, a decontamination room if we get back with a stretcher that's got bodily fluids on it. We can rinse it to make sure that the next patient is safe, as well as our crew. The lower level is another community room, and we use that quite a bit for different community groups. If this room isn't used, that one isn't nearly as big and as equipped with supplies, but it certainly does work. First floor, administrative spaces, and the second floor is all for the daytime crew. Right now, as we talk, there are 2 firefighters up at the firehouse. Around the clock, 24/7, 365, we have 2 people on duty. The rest of that is still supplemented by the call company that we certainly depend upon. Each firefighter with benefits and being competitive with pay is probably in the neighborhood of $100,000. So we are trying, we need to be doing more during the daytimes, but we're trying to make things work as well as we can with what we have. That guy used to be on the fire department. So we got to kind of back up and say, we have firefighters that think, wow, we saved the day, right? Well, it's not the firefighters who save the day. It's the people that get us to the emergency to help us mitigate. I'll say at a fire scene, or who's the most important person? Well, the guy on the nozzle, the one who saved him. I'm like, no, it's the person back at the fire hydrant that gave us the water to put the fire out, right? This is the dispatching, the red network. I wasn't part of it. I think there were a few people in here that may have been, but the system, when the phone calls would come in, each person here had an area or assignment of people to call. They would get the phone. I'm sure she's going to correct me later on that I wasn't right, so bear with me. But it was, you have a fire, hang up, and go to the next person. That way they could get the information out. That was the communication. Very limited, and we might do a radio demo later on about what it is that we have for communications today. I think sometimes it's too much of what we have today. Anybody know this lady's name? All right, this is Janet Bragg. I knew her as a little kid, and I even heard it myself. Sometimes you'll hear my mother saying it, but she had two parrots next to the radio system. For whatever reason, when she would talk on the radio or put tones out, what would you hear? Honest to goodness, they would repeat that as she was saying that. But you talk about a person who is committed to work. We don't see that as much today in society, about people that are committed to their projects and take pride and honor in it. She would be the dispatcher all week, all nights, all weekends, with the exception of Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday, where she would go off, do the duties for the house, grocery shopping and whatever, and Evelyn Chase would come over, and Evelyn and Phil was one of the chiefs for the department. So, but that's the system, right? People would call, it would go, she lives right in proximity to the Congregational Church, so the wires would go across to Central Station, and horns and whistles could go from there. I'm going to back up to a slide to show you, but if you see, these are all the buttons, and I'm going to show you how, you know, right now we have radios, right? We've got a few active members in the department. This radio right here, it costs $600, so don't hold that against me, but this will come on as soon as the dispatcher starts talking. We're getting all the information, right? And there's also other programs that are out there on your phone that I don't know how to turn them on, but you can talk through them and everything else. Amazing, amazing technology. Who's this? That's Herb Foster, right? He would, I believe, on Thursday nights is when we do our trainings, would come down and help out doing some of the dispatching just to be a backup position. That's today's communication center. So again, Janet doing her thing. This is what happens today. Who do you think was able to provide a better product to the community? Janet Bragg, because if you said, hey, where's Maloney's Ridge? Oh, it's here, there, off this street, and probably halfway down on the left. Our dispatch center is through the Cumberland County Communications Center. Regional serves 15 towns. There is 15 main streets for them, and they don't know, especially when you say, hey, they're at the old Geiger gym. They're at the place that had the big, elm tree that died in the 70s. Janet knew that, right? She didn't need, I'm not picking on the new dispatchers by any stretch, because they do have a ton of talent to offer. They have generators. What if the power goes out? All of a sudden, the system is out. Janet's computer was up here for the cards to say which trucks are going to go, because without the radios, how do you know, okay, there's a fire, but I don't know where it is, right? So, this picture isn't easy to see, but on the top of the station is a siren, okay? This is Central Station. There's another siren. Again, Central Station had those trucks there as well as at the other one. This just had engine 2 and engine 5. That's how you found out if there was a fire call. Still didn't tell you where it was. Again, was it on Blackstrap Road or was it on Orchard Road? You didn't know by just the sirens going off. We're going to come back to make this thing fit. This will show the different addresses. Maybe. Work with me. one more. On Central Station, these were not sirens, it was a horn, 3 horns. And does anybody remember how loud those were? Very, very loud. If Dr. Wyatt was here, right, anybody that knew Dr. Wyatt, who lived immediately across the street, he was not super excited when that system went in. But those were extremely loud, but had just more travel distance to do that. And now you could blow out rounds so you knew where the call might be to help break it down. So we go back to this. We have those horns. We had Janet with those buttons. We've tried to narrow it down to say, all right, if we're going to the EK Sweetser School, you're going to hear 24. It's going to start out with 2 blasts, there'll be a pause, and then there'd be 4. And they would do that twice. So the first numbers are what the where the trucks are represented, right? So you knew, okay, who's going, and it's another way to break it down. But if I just picked Mill Road for an example, right? That's 51. So imagine living across the street, hearing the 5 horns go, pause, then 1, wait, 5 lows, then 1. Now, a few of you said, hey, we still listen to the radio and do different things, and I think I'd rather listen to my radio on, the second click in the volume versus these horns that would blow off. When I was in school, they had changed the system that you had said from the sirens being on. The siren was on top of Central Station, but the horns were still there. We could leave school when I was in high school, and 3 horn blasts was a medical call. 5 was a fire call. So when you'd hear the 3 horns go off, those of us that were on the fire department would just be praying to hear that 4th horn so we could get up, run across the field, go through the backyard of Dr. Wyatt's and get on the trucks, be passed out from running so hard across the field. It was fun, but we got there and we really did the job. So there's, if you're going out of town to the different things, that was how the system worked, right? Sometimes you had to go to the station, get the information, and say, all right, here's where we're going. That's why the red network was so valuable. This system didn't last too long as it is here, because again, if you're on the Forest Lake roads and you got box 71, you got a long night of horns blasting in your ear. Imagine having a headache that night. With the numbers, and we'll talk a little bit about mutual aid as well, but again, we've got it broken down now because we don't have to use the horns anymore. Our tones will simply say it's box 321, right? And we know that a 300 box starts at the railroad tracks and goes all the way up to the fairgrounds. Central's basically in the middle. The fairgrounds up is either a 200 or 500 box for engine 2 and engine 5. So railroad tracks, this engine 1 always covered on that side. But these areas here, we now also will automatically call for the mutual aid to those locations, right? Because if Falmouth's closer, why wouldn't we have that? North Yarmouth, we had a call at the school yesterday. Ended up being nothing call. They were playing, I don't know if you still call it war, when you take the rubber balls and throw them at each other. Well, one of the balls didn't hit a person, but it hit the alarm pull station and set off the alarm. But I have North Yarmouth coming automatically because, yes, during the daytime things can be a little light-handed, so they come down and give us a hand. Yeah, they have these ugly green trucks. hours are red. It doesn't matter. The talent is there to help mitigate the emergency. Some of the equipment, I'll laugh, and I've got, again, a couple guys in the room. This ambulance, we got, actually called the 24 because when we bought it, but we got it this year, right? How much? How much money?
Roughly around 100,000.
You're not even close. Let's say $450,000 for an ambulance. Now, I bet it's got a few more features than what this one has, right? But it is just so difficult to try to keep up with the inventory in the budgets when vehicles are costing as much as they are. But believe it or not, for a small little town, we have 3 ambulances. We buy the newest one, and the others, you know, kind of become the backups. But with football games up to West Cumberland, we want that coverage up for the kids there. Twin Brooks, we cover harness racing. There's all these things for the little town of Cumberland to have 3 ambulances. And it's not like they're just sitting there. They're going quite a bit, throwing the Cumberland Fair and other events. This was a picture taken at Maiden Medical Center one day where it's like, wow, the big city of Cumberland's got 3 ambulances parked in the emergency bays. What a difference from that to that. Again, this goes back to the mutual aid part, and I'm talking, this was slightly before my time. This is down near mainline fence on Middle Road, but there's mutual aid coming from both directions, and I believe there's a story about Engine 3's transmission getting blown up at that call, whatever, I don't know. That's mutual aid. That's me picking up the radio and saying, give me help from wherever, the North Yarmouth Memorial School fire back in the 70s. Give me help from Yarmouth and Cumberland was the initial request, right? We also have it where it's automatic, and like I showed that map earlier, if there was to be a call right now on Route 88, south of Tuttle Road, Falmouth will get there before we do. That's what we want, right? We cover the turnpike into Falmouth because we can get on at Blackstrap Road at the Service Plaza and go all the way down on the southbound side to the, some of us still call it exit 10, but it's exit 53, that is there. So we have Gray that comes part of the turnpike we cover, Falmouth covers on Interstate 295, Yarmouth and us, we come southbound, we go northbound with Falmouth. Obviously Bucknam Road and Falmouth, they're right there. We have done a great job about saying, I don't care whose names are on the side of the truck. I'm going the wrong way. We don't care, right? We want to be able to carry up our own part of the bargain, but it is so, so, so important. So these are the streets, and like I said, North Yarmouth, they pulled into the middle school ahead of a couple of our trucks yesterday. Perfect. We're able to affect and mitigate the emergency because we want to do it obviously for life and property, but we also want business to get back to normal. Yesterday wasn't too bad, but let's fast forward 2 months when it's 20 below zero when the kids are outside and we're, you know, messing around trying to get trucks there to figure it out. Having that automatic response is huge. These are the streets. I put this one in because we don't typically do it, but we have at times done this. That's actually in Lisbon Falls at the Warrumble Mill Fire, right? I'm not going to ask you the date of that, but I know it because it's the day before my birthday. It was July 23rd of 1987, And when we made one turn, coming around the sky, usually like a fire will be like this in the horizon. It was like this in the horizon. So it's like, wow, this is the big deal. I remember the date, and I hope I go home after this one. And we all did. But we've been to helped in Portland at the jet port and some of the bigger calls that they have. And they come. Lisbon Falls, you know, they would come if something happened. It's not like, well, we're not going there. The communities around, there's just the state agreement. Hey, you helped us this day, we're going to go help that day. We just had another county chiefs meeting today about having to expand that service. A few pictures. Again, this is up at the fairgrounds. Some of those are military. Trucks probably weren't a heck of a lot of money. These trucks, like I said, I've been chief for 26 years, so I've bought all of those, and we've actually replaced another one, plus I've bought all 3 ambulances. Those trucks, if you were to buy them there, the newest truck is that truck right there, and it's a 2007. So these aren't brand new trucks. But to replace any of those engines, we would be well over $1 million. $1 million for a piece of equipment. We have reduced down from what we had to where we are here because, number one, can't afford it, but number two, if we don't have the same call company to be able to come to calls, we don't want it to be a dance party. I don't know this gentleman, some of you may. I do know this one. This is Don Ronsley. He got done being a captain about 10 years ago. Was a strong influence for me when I became the chief. He had a very good way of subliminally giving me thoughts and ideas like, boy, that's kind of a good idea, but what about trying this? And he would never want credit. So this is the old way of running a pump, right? This is the new way with ports. That truck will flow 2,250 gallons of water a minute. We don't have it plumbed to do that. It's set for 1,500 gallons a minute, which is a lot. I bet this truck wouldn't do more than 250. Dad, if I'm off, throw something at me, right? That is the progress. You know, this is what they had for hose lines. It wasn't a lot. These trucks have 5 hand lines plus 1,000 feet of the big yellow hose that you see that we lay from hydrants. It makes it a lot more productive for us to, again, mitigate the emergencies. Other than one small family member, all of the other smalls, meaning the family of smalls, have served on Engine 1. These are all the Engine 1s that we've had. Starting with my grandfather Small, who ended up becoming a chief. My father was on Engine 1 as a captain. He became a chief. This was the truck. I don't know what truck my dad was on these old ones. We actually still have this truck, and it's in good shape. A firefighter of ours, a young kid, he's Jackson's age, so he's 21, and he is working on that truck right now to make it run more efficiently, and that will be the vehicle likely to transport Santa Claus to the tree lighting in early December, or whenever it is. This was the truck when I started, and then that's the one that we have right now. That picture is very recent, within the last year, because there's snow on the roof, so hopefully it wasn't too recent. Again, that would be $1 million, but it's what we have now, but we take very good care of them. That thing's 19 years old, right? A lot of times it was 20 years old. throw it to the curb and start over. We're really trying to make sure that we're making history ourselves with trying to maintain, if you will. Equipment. This is a hybrid vehicle. Anybody heard of the battery operated hybrids? Not here to talk about tactics and strategy or opinions or whatever. This is a call that we were at with Yarmouth on the Interstate 295, and it took us quite a while to get that fire out. A simple little car fire. Crap. Took quite a bit of effort. We had to put airbags underneath it to lift the car up to make it so we could get it to it. An electric vehicle now could take 24 hours for us to try to extinguish. So our equipment does have to have the technology in order to be able to, how do we fix this thing? Imagine a car fire on the side of I-295 for 24 hours. Ronnie Kopp, when he grabs, if we get the thing extinguished, it may reignite. He now has up behind his shop a big area of concrete barriers. So he puts the cars there first, so if they catch fire again, they're in a contained spot. And again, what I wanted to show is it's not just fires that we do, right? It's, this is the barn, this was brand new. This was off of Bruce Hill Road, I believe. They had just got done building it, and this is what occurred. So there's a barn there, but I'm guessing it was, maybe the masonry blocks are new, but I know the roof is not the original. I believe this was the chicken barns down where the Mabel I. Wilson School is. The top right was a fire in the early 2000s, and that was up on Range Road. And I want to say it was almost 1,000 degrees below zero that day. It was cold. You could get in the trucks because you're frozen from all the water. You would get in the trucks and you would get out 20 minutes and look no different. It was that cold. But that's what happens, right? We can't sit there and judge and say, I'm going to turn my radio off. It's not a nice night. Actually, I'm going to do a quick pause and let Jack do a demo for us. You're going to put that air pack on. So, these air packs on the picture were technology that was available in the 60s. This one that's in my car is actually old technology based on what we have for other pieces, but I like it better than the older stuff, so I keep it. So these didn't have alarms and bells. You just knew that I got to pay attention to when I'm running out of air. So you heard it beeping when Jack first turned it on. You can see a green light. If he faces you, you'll see a green light. That if I'm looking at him, because the fire scene can be really loud, right? So, and the alarm sometimes is in your lower back. So if I'm talking to you, I don't know, I hear this noise, hey, your air pack's going. I'm like, no, it's you. And you have to wiggle your butt to get that motion detector to go off. The idea is if you go down and you are not moving, you'll get this tone, just like the actual show, right? So you can show up, it gets a lot louder than that, right? He goes down in a fire, Captain Dunn and I get our stuff on, in we go, and we can at least try to get an approximate location of where he is. Then we have special packs that we can transfer over to him. But these things back in the 60s, they didn't have any of that technology. He can bypass the regulator, all of those things to do that. We are very, very, very lucky that we have the support to get some of this technology. We've got grants out for some federal funds to replace our air packs, but I think we're pretty convinced that those grants are not going to occur right now. Thank you, Jack. The other part, that it's not just about firefighting. And this has always been that way. The interstates have been around since, I think it was Dwight Eisenhower is the president who made the funding for the highway systems. But this is Route 1. This is a large tractor trailer full of salt and sand. We have Amtrak that goes through town. So I get funding. What do we do if this train tips over in our backyard and we go up and like, no, I got a hacksaw, what do you got? So we've had training. These are two of our guys. I was at that training, plus we got a grant for another group of people. That's down to Texas A&M. They have a huge training facility. We had a grant that paid for everything, and we were able to get that training. What was really weird, I'm too cheap. I bought, these are forestry suits. We walk into the classroom, sit down, a little weird. There's guys from Boston. Wow, we're with the big guys. Then about 10 of these guys from FD&Y walked in the room, and we're like, Cumberland, Maine is now training with the Fire Department of New York City. It was a little awkward to do that. This was just this past season. Out to the Portland Jetport, they have to do a training, a hands-on actual training every 3 years. We participate with that. So this is up on the airfield. We've got water rescue equipment. So this is all of our crew. I think we had 7 people there that day. If you look straight across, that's Thompson's Point on that far side. Because the idea, the scenario was that the plane fell short of the runway. And it's the 29 runway. If you care about that, the 29 runway is the one that goes over 295. So you learned something tonight. The other thing, we were fortunate, the school department had a bus that was completely unusable, wasn't worth trade-in. They said, hey, are you guys interested? Absolutely. So Jack's in charge of our heavy rescue, that's the extrication truck. We set up several different scenarios. One night was practicing medical work, and then another night it may have been how do we use the jaws of life, etc. We go up to Cumberland Auto Salvage. They are great to us. Hustling. We also don't have those beautiful summer afternoons necessarily up there. I bet they were having a lot more fun doing the boat training than here, or certainly there, right? But we have to do it, right? Who else is going to go if somebody goes through? That's at Knight's Pond. That's actually in my family's field, and that one's up at Lou and Honey Crosses. I like going up there the most because they feed everybody really well. We're family, and we're community, and I am the proudest one for that. We just did our open house a couple weeks ago, and during the great week of the Chicago fire, and to see these little kids come around asking questions, having fun obviously, but they ask questions. They get a smoke detector to hear what it sounds like. There's a little trailer that they walk through to see what it's like to crawl under smoke. They're having fun, but they don't realize that they're learning all at the same time. Talk about family. You guys might recognize this lady. That lady is my daughter, Jason Kopp, Chase Kopp, Jack Small. It's family, right? To be very proud to go out every single year. Who's a veteran in this room? Right? We're doing this because we want to make sure that the town knows that we're fortunate to be able to do these things because of what you guys did for us. So thank you from me for you guys doing that. And that is the easiest way for us to say thank you. And it's great to see the community comes out and recognizes that for living and not. I've rambled a lot. 5 minutes over. I was waiting for the big hook to pull me over, right? I think what I didn't want to do was have, here's a picture, click, here's another picture, click. Wanted to try to have some explanation. So I'm very good. Don't forget that. I was supposed to tell her not to forget that. She'll walk around. If you guys have any questions at all, I'll try to answer them accurately, and if I don't, I'll just make something up because that's what my mom taught me to do. So, yes, walk right over to Eric, because Eric's going to explain to you what. Yeah, you are. This.
Breast cancer awareness, fire service is affected by it as well. We've had firefighter paramedics in town where I used to work with Danny. I don't know about any of ours, but I've had several relatives, whatever, affected by breast cancer. So the fire department adopted it. So in October, we have these, and it just to wear pink in October.
Yep. Perfect. That's how you see the police department this month. They've got the pink patches and pink badges. Is Chip around? Chief Rumsey spends more money on his uniform stuff because he likes his people better than me, evidently. No, if you see, they have patches that comes out of their clothing, but his crews feel so important that they want to recognize the breast cancer awareness. So everybody says, all right, not that we shouldn't be doing that. It's like a lot of things. We should be doing it year round. But that's a pretty important thing to do. Are you done asking non-related questions?
Yeah, I'm cut off.
Back to the air horns, when did they stop working? Was it in the 70s? I've been trying to remember. And
It was changed from the 4 billion rounds of horns, but even I graduated in 1989, and the horns were still going there. What happened would be the West End would still do the siren, but didn't have the horns at noontime. It was a test. Okay. So at noontime every day, the siren test would go on, and then at 6 o'clock at night, there would be the horns that would go off. So.
okay, yeah, because working in the West End, I knew when it was launched. So
At one point, there were 4, and then they brought it down to 2, and they took away the ones that they announced. Sometimes they announced the suppers in Cumberland Center with a horn, so they took some of those things away.
Okay, I don't remember the speakers. You're way ahead of me on that one.
I just found an article on it.
Yeah, impressive how communication was.
Just some newspaper articles. Anybody else?
yeah, I thought it was something else. Do we still in the high school have volunteer firemen?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do. Because OSHA and the Maine Bureau of Labor Standards and a few other National Fire Protection Association have put safety at a very high point where it should be. The unfortunate side of that is it restricts what they can do. We have a policy for 15 and 16-year-olds that they can do this much. A lot of it's observation time from a remote distance, and then 17 and 18-year-olds, maybe I've got that wrong, they can do more interactive. They could go in with Captain Dunn and be right next to him wearing an air pack, and it's a one-on-one situation. So if they start doing something wrong, he grabs them and says, let's go outside and we'll talk about this, and then go back in, because we certainly wouldn't want to see that. Unlike, and again, I'm not an old person, only 55. When I first joined, you could ride in the tailgate of a fire truck. They don't allow that at all anymore. So the things change.
Yeah. I know the the yearbooks,
they show the volunteer kids and all our old yearbooks. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, do you know?
No.
No?
No, because there just isn't that many. It's really hard. I actually just had this conversation today about to have, some towns have completely wiped it out. We've been trying to keep it, but it's kind of at that point where it's hard to have me take, there's less of us to go around to help do the training for everybody else, right? If tomorrow night we're doing training on,
Tomorrow's Smells and Bells. So
right,
fire
it's just
alarm.
a generic class, right? Basic snares that they'll have to respond to. So there's a lot of setup with that, a lot of things to do, but then it's like, oh, hey Jack, I also got this Explorer post that you got to deal with and come in, and then it's like, who can do that? So we're not delivering a good product. It's not fair for the kids. And a lot of the kids, if they can't do firefighting with this, then sometimes it's just not interest,
Yeah.
right? It's much less of a hands-on environment. We have plenty that will do it, but it's certainly harder to draw that in.
Good.
Okay, I have a
Does-
question. Oh, you?
Well,
Where?
ask your question, but the gentleman in the back, I don't know if he comes to all the meetings, but that's Bill Babbitt. He was a lieutenant in the fire department, served on Engine 3. So he was always, you remember me showing all the Engine 1 slides? He was always out after Engine 1.
Okay, so he might have been on the Wilson Fire in the mid-'70s. Anyways, my question to you is, when our barn burnt and several other buildings with it, and of course it was during haying season, so everything was right full of hay, I remember the fire department coming back several days afterwards to keep putting out hot spots. How many days after the initial fire, what's the longest amount of time you've had to continually keep going back for hot spots?
Well, yes. How's that for obviously it depends on what the fire load is. If you had a mountain full of hay bales, that's going to take a lot longer. Quite typically now we would go in with, we'd call Public Works or Story Brothers, A.H. Grover, and say, look, we need to borrow an excavator for a while and pull things apart. We could have a simple residential fire, but because everything falls in on top of itself, it's hard to get at. We have these foams and everything else, but it still doesn't make the water go everywhere it needs to go. So we have to do a really good job having what we call a fire watch.
Yeah.
To have somebody stay there, so when they say, wow, what's a little smoke over in the corner coming from? It's, all right, everybody come back, this thing's going again. We've all seen it. And the unfortunate thing is, once you have damage from a rekindle, the next time there's a fire, there isn't a bit left of that house because everybody's so afraid of another rekindle and getting harassed about it because, oh my God, you guys lost this. There's a much bigger dumpster
We were
load.
fortunate in the fact that the underground fuel tank didn't explode, but
Yeah.
other than that, I just remember the fire department coming back probably a good week afterwards, wasn't it, Nancy?
I believe so.
But that was a building full of hay and a barn full of hay and lots of hay.
You got to pull it all apart.
We did.
Did you ever hear about a fire on Skillings Road?
At the sawdust pile. It was probably way back in the 30s.
Yeah, I was born in '70,
I
so
know, but I'm.
no, I haven't even heard about it. No.
Heard about it in your stories. I
No.
know that Cat Briggs said it was the one that he remembered the most, so I wasn't.
Sure.
I mean, if it's a sawdust pile, maybe it was one of those that just burned forever.
Yeah, could have been. And again, until you get the equipment to spread it around, it's when you're containing that heat in, it's going to keep chewing away until it gets that oxygenation to cool it down. We can get the water distributed to cool it off.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize way back on Skillings Road that Paul Merrill had a lumber company there, and there was huge sawdust piles that us kids would get on to slide in the winter, and it was just awesome, you know. But it was next door to Steve and Kathy Wright's, because Kathy was a Cummins and she grew up there. And then the Wilson Mill, of course, had to get rid of that sawdust as well. And I'm really not sure where that went, but I'm guessing it was Paul Merrill's fire.
Yeah, it was Paul Merrill's. It was the forest, it was what you just said.
Yeah, which is where, well, they're sort of, I'm not sure if they're still there, the Cumberland Riding Club.
Yeah.
So,
The house that came in, we're getting off track, we'll get to a few more questions, but the way you understand it, the building that was there came from the White Mountains.
oh,
Is that correct? Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
She's gonna
Good
nod
to
yes,
know.
even if I'm wrong, but, yes, and we did a training up to that building probably,
10 years ago.
yeah, 5 or 10 years ago, so.
Which building?
This building that was on that site,
I don't remember building
that,
that site.
Well,
I don't know if the
was
cops got
there
involved.
Meeting hall or something for the riding
Oh, yeah,
club?
okay.
That building was, when they built the road up to the top of Mount Washington, the Army Corps of Engineers, that was their bunkhouse. And when they were done with
Don't start over.
Mrs. Small's playground voice. Paul Merrill, who delivered oil to the observatory, when that was no longer the bunkhouse, he used some of his trucks to bring it down because he owned that property there, and brought that building down for the Cumberland County Riding Club. And that's why that building was there. So Paul Merrill was a very generous donor to a lot of things in the town of Cumberland. Graduated with your grandfather from Greeley.
Hold that again.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we'll just take a couple more.
Farms do you know that have burned in Cumberland?
How many that I know? Well, I responded to the Olton's fire. They had actually just sold the property to the Falmouth Country Club, but they had a barn fire there. I was very young, but the fire over on Greeley Road, who was the name of that, Dad? Where the Henricus is built. Anyway, there was this red barn that burnt. We've had some up in West Cumberland, Harmon's Way, Blanchard Road Extension. We've had a lot, and it's terrible. Sometimes we have to put down the animals, but the crews, we have both males and females on the department. They know that we risk a life to save a life, that slogan that we use, but it's something that we're really passionate about, having to have that training. Some are better than others, but everybody's got a place. The recruitment pitch here is everybody's got a place in the department. Again, Eric Dunn, the fine gentleman who showed off his T-shirt, he retired as a captain from the city of Portland. There's nobody better in the department that's going to operate an aerial device other than him. He's not looking to go running into the burning buildings anymore, but he's got a very, very, very important place. So we try to recognize that, and we have a list of, there's the you can do everything, here's the some of the things, and helping with directing traffic, et cetera.
Do you ever, like, if somebody wants their abandoned building or whatever burned, you used to do those, do you still?
Yes and no.
Oh,
So
or it's
there's
something
some,
about the EPA, you can't-
there is, that's exactly where I was gonna go. The DEP makes it very complicated because of the shingles on the roof. We can do it, the containment of the runoff, but you can't, we're part of the Coastal Mutual Aid Chiefs Association. And at the Yarmouth Transfer Station, we have a training building over there. So we can go over and do actual live fires, but it's a room that's, well, the newest one's got a room that's probably 20 by 20 at the most. So they set up a couple pallets, put some hay in it, light it on fire, and they're like, let's go. So you go in psh, with your nozzle. Okay, good knockdown, next crew, and it's not the same. So having a building like that is just,
The Paulins, when we used that building, it was great.
yeah, Dr. Paulding on Main Street when Bub Kopp got rid of one of the house in front of his place. We did a ton of training, even if it's not for burns, practicing how to make entries and stuff like that is important. I'll shut up.
Any other questions?
I'm trying to speak up. Do we still have a fire police?
Yes, yes we do. Always looking for that. We've got some people, and it's kind of a good transition for some to go from, you know what, I don't want to be going into burning buildings anymore, and I don't want to be driving trucks even being too close, but you know what, I can help close off a street. My father is 85 years old. He's not on the fire department anymore, but we had a house fire on Range Road a few months ago. He's got his pickup truck parked right across Range Road at Bruce Hill Road, so no cars were coming down by. Does he meet technically the rules at 85? Kind of, sort of, maybe no. But you know what? If we need something shut off, we take that.
Here's the one last comment.
Until the next one.
When you're talking about everybody being in the same family and everything, I heard that Cap Bragg actually came from Portland Fire Department. Did you know that?
Cap's father did.
Yeah, his father did, and he was in
Yes.
an accident. I don't remember exactly what it was, where a couple of them were killed. But anyway,
Yeah.
and then I think maybe the first fire truck here, there was something to do with. We got something from them.
Yes.
First truck.
So the quick story, and again, Captain Dunn was a captain of the Munjoy Hill Station, not the one on India Street that you're talking about. In the India Street Fire Station is now a lawyer's office. But yes, that truck got in an accident. The way I understand it, I was not even around. I don't know that any of us were around. The truck got in an accident, and the town bought it for the use of the ground ladders because we didn't have anything. So that's what we were trying to do, was to say, all right, we can get a little bit here and a little bit there to make that. So.
Refreshments are still at the back. Enjoy.
We have another question.
Yeah, I just thought of, one funny thing that did happen in West Cumberland where one of the firemen showed up in his underwear. I was just curious of any other.
Tell me that wasn't in the last 26 years.
No, it
Thank
wasn't.
you.
I want to
All right,
say in
keep
the
going.
70s.
All right, good.
His name was Pete. So I was just curious, was there any other really funny stories that nobody really knows about?
We could do a coffee talk and have all kinds of humorous stories. Sometimes, and Cap, don't mean to keep talking for you, but he has seen a lot of terrible things. I've seen a lot of terrible things. And what is weird, there are very important EAP programs to talk to people about what you're going through in life, because it's terrible to see these things. But sometimes going back to the firehouse and being completely distracted and talking about, remember in the old days we did this, and remember when she messed up that scene that day, and I can remember with Halville Merrill taking me into Woods Fires when I wasn't even old enough, and Ken Wagner would have to look the other way, but we would laugh and do that stuff, right? Sometimes that's an important therapy for us, because we can do it with each other, but if I was to bring it home to my wife, she'd be like, Are you gonna do the dishes or what? Right? So, and I'm picking on you if you're watching, sorry, Trish. So, but there are a ton of fun stories and there are a ton of, you know, bummer stories. I've seen a lot of terrible, terrible things, but that's all part of the gig. I've seen a lot of wonderful things as well.
All right, I want to thank Dan and Jack. I appreciate all of you done.
And we have former chaplain here
Yes,
too.
Yep.
absolutely, absolutely.
There's still plenty of goodies back there, coffee, decaf, and tea.
Thanks everyone who suffered through listening to me. I had a lot of fun, at least.
Great, all right, now I gotta get that. I just remember what